Hi guys, welcome back. We've got some guests here. We've got Max. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, Rich. Have a few good things to say about the Irish and about the English. So thought I'd get my British and Irish Lions jersey on to say, well done to my places of ancestry.
That's top sucking up. That really is. Zach is not so impressed, so he's quickly
I
whizzed
was
on
not impressed to come
his
on
All
and see
Blacks
two
jersey.
British and Irish Lions jerseys. I had to put on the All Blacks top.
Yeah,
Got to
well,
represent.
what I was trying. I'm trying to set up, a little chat here with two Kiwis, but it didn't quite work. No, it's good. Um, so, guys, at the weekend yesterday, four amazing games. All Northern Hemisphere wins this time, which for the neutral war, just for excitement, is perfect. Every single series now is a decider. So can't wait for next week. However, as soon as that New Zealand Ireland game finished, I was on the messaging to Zach saying, "Can we chat?" Just so much to talk about New Zealand wise. So let's go for a bit of an All Blacks autopsy, cut it apart, see what comes out, see what caused the death, um, and see if it's all salvageable next week. So, Max, you are the guest here, the newbie. So let's start with you. Um, how
Yeah,
about
that
their
things.
strategy? It looked to me,
Straight
and
ahead.
again, this is where I want you guys to correct me because I was just looking at
Mhm.
it from a Northern Hemisphere perspective. It looked to me that the All Blacks were attacking from deep, which I know they do, but they seemed to keep on doing it even though it wasn't working. And before they'd really got any control, was it naive tactics, or do you think it's something they just need to keep doing and get better at?
On the note of tactics with playing from deep, I think that Rich, you may not like this one, but David Havili is the missing piece of the puzzle here. With him at 12, you just have the extra kicking option because you can't just rely on your spine for all the kicking. You've got to have Jordan at 14 and Havili at 12 to add the extra options so it's not as predictable. Quintu Paya's still quite young. He finished high school just a year after me, so he's kind of been parachuted into the starting role by Foster because Havili and Goodhue were out with illness for the first week. Tupaia, I've seen him at Chiefs training sessions working on his kicking, but he's just not confident enough to bring it into the tests or the Super Rugby. And I think that bit quite hard. Whereas with tactics, it's safe to say we got bullied up front. Like we had 53% possession, but just 36% territory. Tackle percentage, it was lower than Ireland's, as was our ruck percentage. And yeah, so not very good for us on
So
those fronts.
that's interesting. So on tactics, do you think if they'd played Havili, they may have played a bit more of a tactical kicking game?
I'm not entirely sure of the difference it would have made to the scoreline because Ireland thoroughly deserved to win. Like we got outplayed and we got bullied up front, but maybe it would have just been like a few points less of a loss for us or so because of
Okay.
the more openness of the field.
So next week, maybe you see Havili coming in. We'll come on to selection, but
Yeah.
yeah. Zach, what about you? Do you think it was a tactical mistake not to change up and stop that attack from deep? I mean, I'm not an All Blacks fan, but I was half pulling my hair out going, look, it's not working now. You need to change.
100% it was a tactical error. So there were a number of times, particularly the two Barrett brothers at the back, were passing up kicks from deep to have a run. And I just thought there's a bit of a compounding effect as well. When you get down to 13, 14 men, handling errors were a real issue. There's a compounding effect when you're starting to lose territory that if you start attacking from deep, when really you're at a territory disadvantage, you put yourself under so much pressure. And I just thought risk reward, right? Basic risk reward. The All Blacks were playing the higher risk strategy by trying to run it out at that point in time in the game. I just thought it was a time for cooler heads. I mean, Max knows my thoughts on who some of those cooler heads could be. He's named one of them already, but I just thought there was a real lack of game awareness of where
Yeah.
you are in terms of the game, and I mean, a lot of the great All Blacks teams they have been attack first minded, so you don't want to lose that. But there are times where you just need to be a bit more conservative, work your way back into the game. Trying to outpace and outrun a team with 13, 14 men on the field,
Yeah.
it's just not a smart move.
Yeah, and I'll just say at this point, I mean, we're not ignoring Ireland because they were fantastic. It's just we've got two Kiwis here, so we're digging into the All Blacks. But that Irish defence, they were just phenomenal. They were working so hard, some massive turnovers. The back row, once again, I thought the Irish back row probably outplayed the All Blacks back row, particularly Van der Fleer was fantastic. Doris had a much better game. So it's not that like the All Blacks weren't making some good ground with their running from deep. It's just when you have 80 meters to go, you just give the Irish so many more dips at the ball, if you like. So, boys, just very briefly on that first question, sorry. Are you pinning the blame mainly on Foster or the players? Max, have a first go at that.
A lot of my Instagram audience over at the Black Jersey, as well as some of my YouTube audience, which is a fair bit smaller than my Instagram audience, they know that I've been on record as saying Ian Foster isn't the man for the job. In the All Blacks documentary from 2017, there was nothing but praise for who he is as a person, and he comes across as a very nice man, but because of that, he just doesn't quite have the edge to have a go at the boys when they aren't doing what's expected. Whereas he does appear to be a bit closed-minded on selections and tactics. And so we're really paying for the fact that a lot of our attacks are just, hands down the line, as I've said in previous videos. I've said even before he got the job that I don't think Foster's the man for it. I would have liked to see Jamie Joseph, but here we are. And I do think we need a new coach.
Wow, Zach, I think I know where you stand as well. Is that similar?
Yeah, I've got a lot of criticism. I won't be as singularly focused on Foster, but I'll say this, right? Hansen was Graham Henry 2.0. Now we've got Graham Henry 3.0, right? So there's just been a continuation. And, go back to 2019 when the All Blacks lost to England in the World Cup semi-final. The way to beat the All Blacks was very clear, right? You start fast. You bully them up front. You put them under territory and scoreboard pressure. You force them into errors, and then you can start to get a result later in the game, So, and I just haven't seen enough from Foster to suggest that he's making the right changes to how teams are playing against us. That the way the Irish beat us over the weekend, last night, is the same way that England beat us. It's the same way that everyone beats us, right? So I'm not seeing enough evolution, and that's my biggest criticism of Foster.
Yeah.
Is there is just not enough evolution to deal with what is a well-known game plan to beat the All Blacks. That being said, I think Beauden Barrett in this game, I put a lot on his shoulders on this one.
Okay.
I just think there was a lot of run first, attack first. His tactical kicking wasn't great, where he did try to, look for the sideline. So in fairness to Foster, I don't put all the blame on him. I do think, and I go back to the Super Rugby final, right, as the most recent example of, a game management minded New Zealand 10 versus a run sort of, attacking minded New Zealand 10. And I think the modern game calls for more of a game management style 10.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I've seen New Zealand play a really clever tactical kicking game in the past, so it's not like they can't do it and like the likes of Smith can't do it. So, yeah, that's interesting. And in both games, Ireland started fast in both games, and it was the first game that the All Blacks obviously played better, but Ireland made a couple of crucial errors, and then the All Blacks really started to flow. In this game, they never made the errors. And moving on to the second question. It was the All Blacks that really imploded themselves this week with the discipline. So just thinking about this question here, we had Fainganuku flying through the air, getting the yellow, not in control of his body, shall we say. Tuinga Farsi's yellow, taking out of Ringrose, which could have been a penalty try maybe. Tavo's red for the upright tackle. So 3 examples there. What were your thoughts on it? Do you think some were unlucky? Was it down to the players? What do you think caused that? Because it wasn't just one thing. It was obviously a lot of indiscipline. So, Max, go on. You go for it.
Well, Rich, mate, this is what you get when Super Rugby has just a 20-minute punishment for a red card.
Oh, interesting.
As we know, World Rugby scrapped the idea, but here in New Zealand, Australia, and Fiji, it's been kept on. So the teams like Moana Pacifica, the Reds, the Hurricanes, all the players in these teams have, I guess, been disincentivized from keeping their discipline because the punishment for a red's just 20 minutes. I mean, the player themselves can't come back on, but they can be replaced after the 20 minutes. And so when, we saw Darcy Swain get the red last week, and now we're seeing it again this week with Tarval. Probably couldn't do much, but the rules are the rules. The only part I disagree with is To'onga Fussies, where he was clearly trying to tackle Sexton, and Ringrose obstructed him. So I think that was a terrible call, but all the other cards I agree with.
Okay, that's a really interesting point, though, you make about the 20-minute red card maybe making them a bit more reckless. I hadn't considered that. Thanks, Max. Zach, your thoughts?
Yeah, just to add to that, and Max is 100% right. It's really the interpretation at Super Rugby level is significantly different than the interpretation at World Rugby level. And what I mean by that is that Whainganuku yellow card is probably, depending on the ref play on, right, at Super Rugby level. Really? Depending on the ref. And this is not to say that the ref got it wrong at all. All I'm saying is that the interpretation is different at the international level than it is at Super Rugby level. And it's the onus is on the players to adjust to that, right? I just think that the players haven't adapted because of the rules. Exactly as Max said, the rules at Super Rugby do not incentivize or, changes in approach because it's a lot more relaxed in terms of punishment.
That's really interesting, guys. Exactly why I wanted you on, because, from looking at it from a Northern Hemisphere, Six Nations sort of perspective, all those cards were exactly how I thought they were when I saw them live. But if it's slightly different at Super Rugby, that is very interesting indeed. So thanks very much.
To'onga Fussy, as you say, probably should have been a penalty try, right, at international level. Mm-hmm. That's probably a penalty try.
Yeah,
and that's just the difference in interpretation.
Yeah, I thought it was close to a penalty try. I thought it was definitely interesting. The Tarvo one is super unlucky, but if you go, I go on about this all the time on my channel. If you tackle upright, leading with your head, at some point you're going to get a head clash and a red card. So, anyway,
it was your channel. It was your channel in the first place that informed me of that. So I'm not really in a place to talk here.
Well, again, that is absolutely fascinating. The differences between international, Super Rugby, etc. Okay, let's get on to, I think, maybe the turning point. The turning point, we never know if it was a turning point or not, and that was the All Blacks desperately trying to get Ardie Savea back on the pitch. Again, I'm not an All Blacks fan, but I was really frustrated then. Were you guys throwing stuff, screaming, swearing that he got taken off because you have to get a full front row on, even though it's uncontested? It can't be unfair, if you like. So that's the new rule. They got it wrong. They took Ardie off thinking he'd come back on, and then clearly he couldn't at all. So you got your best player in the world sitting on the bench. Go on, we'll start with you this time, Zach. How upset were you?
I wasn't too upset because I was at the pub enjoying the game. Okay. But what I will say is that, that was a real head scratcher. To me, it was just like, if we're any chance of coming back into this game, we need to have Ardie on the field. That is a given. To see him off, to see, and I think, part of the issue part of the blame you have to put on the All Blacks management, just the way they managed that period of time. And, there was a lot happening in a short amount of time. So I can understand the decision to pull Ardie and maybe not fully being aware of the implications.
It's a complicated issue, definitely.
Yeah, and it's compounded by all the other issues. You just sort of, at that point in the game, it was just so much going on. So I understand why they made the mistake, but at that level, you shouldn't be making that error. Right?
Yeah, we saw that situation in the Six Nations as well. So it's something the coaches know about. So I am surprised they got it wrong, although obviously it caught me by surprise. So yeah, it was tricky, but still, why would you take Ardie Savea off anyway? That's my question.
Exactly. Why Ardie? He was going pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Could they have taken Papali'i off, or was he on the field? Anyway,
come back on.
Sam Cane, take Sam Cane off.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that. Max, go for it.
I can't remember if Leicester Whainganuku was back on or not, because if Whainganuku had come back on, it would have been quite easy. Like, the guy's a winger, he's not a key decision maker, and he's had a yellow already, so just take him off to stop the guy from getting a second yellow. Like, as unlikely it is, like, he's a professional athlete, he knows what he's up to, but it's just that risk factor, you know what I mean? And wingers make the least amount of decisions for a team, so that was probably a solution, but Zach's probably covered the rest of it. So, Ian Foster, why'd you take off the best player in the world, mate? Disgusting.
Yeah. That, again, the back row didn't go great, partly because Ardie Savea wasn't on the pitch for most of it, but I think it's fair to say the Papali'i at 6 experiment didn't show him in his best light. So I can't see him making a charge at 7. Now that's kind of shot him in the foot because he didn't look good. Or do you think? Well, we'll come to selection in a minute. Anyway, let's just finish on the handling because that's the last thing that really surprised me because it was under the roof, right? Wasn't it? It was dry conditions under the roof, perfect conditions, and their handling was really, really poor. Can you think of any particular reasons why that may be, personnel or situation? Max, what do you reckon?
Long story short, I think it's just mentality. I won't get too into detail over here, but the boys just didn't look like they looked like they wanted to play for the jersey, but not for Foster. Perhaps after last week, some of them had a bit of false confidence. I can't speak on their behalf because I'm not an insider. I don't know all the tips, but there did seem to be a few guys that were pretty rattled after Whainga Anuku's yellow card and maybe after Tuonga Fasi's as well. Can't really say much on this topic either. It's just a matter of one team playing better than the other team. Ireland deserved to win.
Yeah, I mean, I literally wrote in my notes here in the game. It just looked like they were playing a bit panicked there. The composure had gone. What do you reckon, Zach?
Yeah, I think preparation. If I was to pinpoint any one thing, you look at the preparation of game 1, it's do or die. It's, we're 2 games lost. This is Eden Park. It's on home soil. There was just a lot made about the need to be urgent. This is it. This is, what All Blacks are there for, is these big moments. So the build-up was very targeted on execution, on standing up under pressure, whereas it just felt like this last week gone was a little bit less. It was just a bit more relaxed. Even, I know we're going to get to selections, but it just felt overall it was just a level down in preparation to me in the build-up.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, go on. Let's get on to selections then, because, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it was a bad performance from the All Blacks, but it's 1-1. It's all to play for. I mean, absolutely anyone could win this one. So selections. My first one I'm going to put out there is I'm guessing Whainga is going to be gone and Will Jordan's going to be in. Or I've got a feeling Zach might put Jordan somewhere else. But anyway, go on, Zach. You start us off with selection changes. And Max, feel free to interrupt Zach here if you think he's got it wrong. Let's go for that.
Oh, no worries, mate. I'll try not to do it too badly.
I'll say this firstly, right? So the All Blacks have made a lot of noise about their intent to be more physical, right? So Scott Barrett at 6 was one of the first selections, a lot of eyebrows raised around that in game 1, but it worked, right? Both from a set piece perspective, from a line-out perspective, from a breakdown of physicality perspective. Then they go and select 3 7s, right? So that was a bit of a head scratcher for me. So to me, Papali'i probably goes to the bench and they look for a bit more physicality. Sam Whitelock is probably going to play because it's a decider. So I reckon he comes in. Yeah. We go back to the forward pack that we saw in game 1.
Yeah, to be fair to Foster, that's probably what he wanted anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Go to the lock, Zach. I just wanted to say that Barrett returning to 6 is good, and I also think now that Tui Pelotu's come back in, we should have him start with Retallick, then not have a replacement lock. I mean, we've got to have 3 locks on the pitch if we want to have 2 open sides. You saw it with Lukan Salakai, Lotto, and Isi Naisarani under Michael Checker's Wallabies, and you also even saw it before then with Scott Fardy in the 2015 World Cup. If you've got 2 open sides on the pitch, Savea and Kane, well, then I think you've got to have 3 locks. So to me, that's a no-brainer. Papali'i's got so much energy and it just wasn't quite utilised. This time he made his 5 tackles, so I agree with Zach on putting him on the bench.
Yeah. All right, you go backs, Max. I've covered forwards, you take backs.
More selection issues.
Oh, sorry, were there any front row changes, though, before we go backs?
Yes. That's exactly what I wanted to speak on, Rich. Exactly what I wanted to speak on. I'm trying not to be biased as I have had Ollie Norris on my channel as a guest, but just on the note of playing, why is he not in the All Blacks? Same with Ethan de Groot, same with Tamaiti Williams. I mean, Angus Ta'avao does have the mobility and everything, so I understand why he was picked. Plus, it's always good to have an experienced player, but it's just time to turn to the next generation of front rowers, mate. Taylor had a bad game for the second time in a row, and so Zach's been saying it for a while. I do think that it's probably time to get Taukei'aho starting if he is to do it for the World Cup. Bauer was probably the best All Black this time around, but at the end of the day, like, he's not quite tactically there. So bring De Groot in to start, bring Norris and Williams off the bench, and if Tu'ungafasi continues to play badly, don't be scared to make an early substitution. I love Eddie Jones's willingness to do it all the time. If Foster could adapt to that and maybe do early substitutions, I think we'd be far better off.
Zach, what's your front row then?
That's a massive call in a Game 3 decider, I think. We've got 2 data points, right? We've got a successful data point in Game 1. So I think Tu'ungafasi is one name you need to look closely at, though. But the options are somewhat limited. So I think Bauer starts. I think he goes with Cody Taylor again. Like Max, I'd like to see him be a bit more willing to make quick changes if things aren't going well. So don't be afraid to bring on Taukei'aho earlier if needed. But I just think I'm not the type of person to panic. I've got a clear data point in Game 1 which showed a successful forward pack. I'd be leaning towards that as the model we probably need to go with, because I don't think Ireland have largely changed their approach. They've changed their execution. They've improved their execution in Game 2 for sure, but not their approach.
No, their game was the same. It was just slick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Go on, Max, the backs then. Is Barrett getting the boot?
Please, somebody do it.
Okay.
Everybody knows what I think of Beauden Barrett. I think he could have been the greatest ever fullback had he been managed properly. I mean, that's how he started off for the Hurricanes, and that's the jersey he first started for the All Blacks in. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was against Japan in 2013. Someone can fact check me on this because I don't have the data right in front of me, but I do have the data for this particular match. Just 6 meters and 1 defender beaten off 2 carries. I mean, sure, it was a good try and things. 11 passes is... I'm trying not to slander him. It's pathetic for a first 5. Like, it's all well and good to choose whether you're playing off 9 or 10, but I think it's very important to mix it up and vary who's running the plays, I guess, depending on where in the pitch you are. I mean, if you're far back in the pitch, play off 10, close to the line, use the 9 so that way the 10 can prep the rest of the backs. 6 tackles was the second most of the backs, but considering that's possession rates, I won't kind of get too heavy on the tackle percentages or the tackle numbers for the backs, just because that is a thing for the forwards to do, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, you can only tackle what comes your way in the backs, really. It's a bit skewed, isn't it? I mean, so, okay, so Beauden Barrett is dropping to the bench or to fullback?
What I want to say about that is, had it been the start of a World Cup cycle, out he goes, but because we're just a year and a bit away from a World Cup, I do think he has to stay on off the bench for experience, whereas we get Peter Feta in jersey 22 to cover first 5. But I think an important thing that coaches have to do for benches is cover all the positions in their spine. Hence why I really liked the fact that Sowakula was in 19 last week for Fozzie's lineup. But yeah, I think it's probably better to have a fullback cover than a centre cover, as the fullback's one of the key decision makers on the pitch.
So Barrett goes to the bench for you, Max. Is that right?
Just because of his experience, I think that's invaluable. You just can't grow experience on a tree, can you, Rich?
No, absolutely. Zach, where does he go for you?
I would have started him. I would have started Mo'unga. So my first choice going into Game 1 was Mo'unga Havili.
Right.
Havili not available. My first choice, first 5, is still Mo'unga. I think Havili will be available, so I would go with that combination.
Okay. Same for you, Max?
I mean, with Mo'unga Havili, you just get so many more options. Plus, you get the cohesion that teams like Ireland are so famous for. I think 13 players, please correct me if I'm wrong, turn out for Leinster in the URC Pro 14, whatever it's called these days.
It's pretty much always close to that number.
Yeah. 12, 13, 14, somewhere around that.
I mean, they were so, I mean, again, giving Ireland some praise, they were so on point. They knew what they were doing. They were all in the right position. And when they have Sexton at 10, he, talking of 10s, he just puts the right option at the right time, nothing too flash, and he just lets the machine go around him. So So we're going Smith, Mwanga, Havili.
Can I just touch on a point that Max made around variation or lack of variation? Game 1, we saw a bit of innovation, let's say, in running off 9. The pod was fanned out a bit flatter, and Aaron Smith was just choosing the best option. He kept going wider. So that's where Ardie Savea's try came from, right? He kept doing that here as well. The difference was that Ireland had adjusted. They put their back rowers in that sort of third, fourth man channel. So Caelan Doris was over the ball every single time. The surprise for me was that Aaron Smith kept going there, right? He just kept going to that third, fourth forward rather than looking to play off 10 out the back. So I want to see more variation from the All Blacks. I want to see
nailing it there. And I mean, with the management of 10, let's continue there. I mentioned Barrett made just 11 passes. Sexton made 27. Gibson Park made 56. So that's nearly half as many or just about as Gibson Park. Like, compare how hands-on Sexton is as a game manager, especially considering Ireland were deficient in possession with 47%. So,
well, let's just see more variation. That's my key point.
Yes, please.
Okay, let's finish off that selection then. So I'm guessing you're both sticking with Rico at 13.
I would, yeah.
Yeah, okay, nice and easy. So, and then back 3, Zach, you go for it. Your back 3 would be?
This is tough.
He's not sure.
This is tough. I probably drop Whainganuku, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I keep Savea Reese. I go Will Jordan at 15. Savea Reese one wing.
Yeah.
This might be unpopular. Geordie on the wing.
Okay. Yeah.
I know Max isn't happy with that, but I want his long range. I want his high ball work, game management.
Yeah. I'd simply pop Jordan on the wing, but go for it.
You just have to consider the depth chart ahead of a World Cup for a fullback. Like, it's one of the key decision makers on the pitch, and I just think it's something you just don't want to tamper with, especially considering Jordan's yet to play a minute at 15 at test level. I think that playing against Argentina at 15 is probably the best time we're going to get it, because, I mean, when it comes to the spine, it's just not as easy to change as the props. Hence why I was more than happy to make such a radical change in the front row. So I'll go with Reese at 11, Jordan 14, Geordie Barrett at 15. So the same as Zach, just because of the depth chart, you know, man?
Okay, awesome. Okay, guys, go on then. We'll wrap it up now with the last thing, of course, that is predictions. You can't come on here and not say how you think it's going to go. Who's going to win game 3? Zach, go for it. Who's going to win?
All right. As I've been saying this whole time, right, there's 2 data points. There's game 1, there's game 2, different outcomes. The team that dominates up front wins. I'm going to give our only hope, obviously, Ian Foster, a bit of credit here and say he gets the selections right. The All Blacks muscle up front and sneak a close win at the death.
Okay.
But
there it is.
You heard on the fence a little bit.
You heard it here first. Okay, Max.
You're putting me on the spot, mate. I'm too nervous ahead of this. I'm going to say Ireland to win by 7 points.
Okay.
I think Andy Farrell is a brilliant coach. He's done so well, and I'm going to give him the credit where it's due. Well done, Ireland. Well done, guys.
He's gone heritage over citizenship.
Well, there you go. But I think that's the point, isn't it? It is so finely balanced. New Zealand, Ireland is the rivalry of modern times, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it's turned into.
Sure.
And in New Zealand, we can't even decide on who's going to win this final test. That's what makes it so great. Guys, thanks for joining me for that little autopsy of the All Blacks. Hope you guys enjoy that. I certainly learnt an awful lot, and hope to be chatting to you guys again at some point in the future.